The final text of the TPP is here, and it's every bit as horrific as we thought. Huffington Post reports, quote, critics are especially concerned about a legal process TPP establishes for enforcing new regulations called the Investor State Dispute Settlement, or ISDS. They say ISDS allows foreign companies to challenge a participating country's laws before an international tribunal of judges if they think that law excessively limits their investors' profits. All right, pause there. They're saying that under the TPP, if a company thinks that their profits are being cut into too much, then they get to go after the government. That flips the standard government-corporation relationship on its head, because the way it works in any country is, of course, the government represents the people. They are above the corporations. So if they pass a law, it doesn't matter if the corporation disagrees. They have to abide by it because that's the structure of government. We don't have, corporate overlords, at least not officially. Well, now under the TPP, they're saying, yeah, let's make that happen. Let's have corporate overlords and let's make that official. Let's codify it. They say the tribunals have the power to levy fines on the government should they rule in favor of the companies, which could in turn prompt countries to change their laws and deter them from passing similar measures in the future. All right, so again, this is very important because what they're doing here is they're saying the corporations, if they don't like what the government is doing, they get to go above the government, and above the government are these international tribunals. Now, of course, they're going to try to frame it like the international tribunals are objective and they care about law and they're going to decide what is right and wrong based on the merits of the case in front of them. But as we've discussed previously and as we learned from WikiLeaks, who's going to pick the people on the international tribunal? It's going to be people from these various world governments who are heavily influenced by corporate cash. So in essence, you have the corporations picking the international tribunal to then determine whether or not the corporations or the governments are right in the dispute. Who do you think they're going to side with? They're always going to side with the corporation because that's who they represent. That's who they get their money from. They're, one and the same. This goes back to the revolving door problem that we have in the United States and that we have elsewhere, where people who are in high positions of power in business go to the government, and then they go back to the position of business, then they go back to government, and it goes round and round. And bottom line is, the government is simply representing the interests of the businesses and no longer caring about the people. So when you have a government pass a law that says, hey, Corporation X, you can't dump those carcinogenic chemicals into the river, the corporation can say, we disagree, and we're going to take you to our international tribunal to determine who's right. And lo and behold, they're going to side with the corporation. The governments are going to go, great, now we have no recourse to stop polluting in our own country. So this is the problem with this. Now, there are many problems with the TPP, but this is one of the biggest problems, is that you've now made it so that one of Alex Jones' conspiracy theories looks like it's true because it kind of is. When he says NWO, one world government, the business class, the elites are trying to control everything and everybody. That is what they're doing here. That's exactly what they're doing here. The TPP is trying to set up a system of corporate oligarchy where different countries around the world have to submit to this corporate oligarchy, this business hegemony. It really is incredible. So they continue here and say, the accord requires countries to provide additional patents for new uses of or new methods of using a pharmaceutical product, thereby allowing drug makers to avoid competition from generic drugs even after the original patent expires. It also creates a waiting period of 5 to 8 years before biosimilars, which are generic versions of treatments made out of living organisms, like some vaccines, can come to the market in TPP countries. So what that means is monopolies for pharmaceutical companies and more expensive medicine. And the people who should be most pissed about this are conservatives and capitalists, because you just gutted competition. Insofar as we had competition to have generic drugs that are cheaper, that make people lower their prices so that you get a better price on your medicine, now they're saying, no, we're going to grant the big pharmaceutical companies patents even beyond when their patent expires. They have these sneaky backdoor ways of doing that. where they say, no, now the new company needs to get a patent on it in order for them to sell it. Yeah, but wait, that defeats the whole purpose of having a patent in the first place. It's supposed to be that when the patent on the original product expires, then other companies can introduce the generic versions of those drugs at a lower price, and then you get a better price on the medicine that you need to survive. But they say no, whenever a new product comes on the market, after the original patent expires from the original company, well, now the new ones need a patent as well. And guess what's going to happen there? They're going to be rejected by the government, which is bought off by the bigger pharmaceutical companies. They're saying we're not even going to allow biosimilars, which are these new things where it's kind of like a generic version of the drug, except it's different because they create it via not the exact same formula, I guess you could say. And this is coming from an idiot here, so don't take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But biosimilars are relatively new, and now they're basically trying to use patent law to crush this, even though it has the potential to get medicine to more people at lower prices. So the TPP is an absolute fucking disaster. And then I haven't even mentioned other aspects of it, which we've discussed in the past on the show, which is that Brunei, for example, is now allowed in the TPP. That happened recently. Brunei, in 2014, implemented Sharia law. And the U.S. said, yeah, welcome to the TPP. We don't care. Sharia law, that's your business. That's not our business. But hold on. We fought a war in Afghanistan. We still are. Because we said, well, the Taliban's implementing Sharia law. These are barbarians. We can't have them in control. So in one place, we fight a war over people implementing Sharia law, or so they say, so the government says. In another place, they implement it, and then we pat them on the back and say, welcome to our trade deal. Come on in. And then, obviously, when you look at Saudi Arabia, one of our top allies, and they're a Wahhabi state, you realize, oh, okay, so what they tell us is the reason for war. It's not the real reason for war. But what we're seeing here is a Sharia country. They're like, rock and roll, yeah. Don't tell me this government cares about morality and justice and values and altruism. It simply doesn't, because you wouldn't allow TPP, you wouldn't allow Brunei to take part in the TPP, and also Malaysia. Because Malaysia has a government that, quote, tolerates slavery. And what happened when there was a backlash over allowing Malaysia into the TPP? The Obama administration just changed the ranking of the Malaysian government, where they used to say, yeah, there's evidence that they tolerate slavery. And then overnight they go, oh, look, they cleaned up their act. They didn't actually do anything, but they say, oh, they cleaned up their act because we say they cleaned up their act. So now we're going to allow them in the TPP. So even fucking slavery, we go, well, if it helps our corporate profits, we can look the other way. How ironic. The first black president giving a thumbs up and a pat on the back to a country that tolerates slavery. Well done, sir. And then final thing I'll mention here, as the Economic Policy Institute has proven before and has reported on, we're going to lose hundreds of thousands of more jobs as a result of the TPP. So now we have the final text, and now, believe it or not, our hopes rest on not only the Progressive Caucus, but also on the Tea Partiers. See, that's the crazy thing about the TPP, is you get some strange bedfellows out of this. The establishment Republicans and the establishment Democrats are going to push as hard as they can on this, because they represent the corporations more than anybody, because they take more corporate cash. But you have, in the House of Representatives, you're going to have the progressives, who are much more principled than the establishment Democrats. They're going to be against this, and you're backed by unions and stuff like that too. And then you're also going to have the Tea Partiers, or the so-called Freedom Caucus. Now, they may be against it for all the wrong reasons, that, hey, we hate Obama, and, Obama's leading this, so fuck him. But I'll take it. And I'll take it because they're going to be on the right side, by accident or not, and we're going to need them to come together to defeat the establishment, and that's going to be a hard thing. At this point, I'll say it does not look good. The TPP is horrible, and there's a good chance it will eventually be implemented.